Yes, hello. Now, next question is examining the basic postulate of the human relation theory that show how far it differs from classical theory. So, here we are describing about the classical theory and how it is differ from the human relation theory. Okay, human relation theory. So, the human relation theory or the neoclassical theory was built on the base of the classical theory, modifying it, adding to it, and extending to it. The Human Relations School of Administration was led by such eminent scholars like Elton Mayo, Dixon, and others. Mayo and his colleagues conducted many experiments with human behavior at the Hawthorne work. Hawthorne. Okay, Hawthorne, you should have the knowledge about the Hawthorne work and Western Electrical Company in Chicago and found that output for worker was dependent not only on the physical condition of work but also on the recognition given to the worker by the management. It is depends on physical condition but also the recognition. The Hawthorne experiment of Mayo were directed toward the finding out why human cooperation could not be exactly and accurately determined by the administration. Mayo concluded that workers respond to total work situation and attribute and social relation from important part of the total. They found that improvement in productivity was due to such social factors: morale, satisfaction, interrelationship, member of work group, and effective management. This experiment led to the increased emphasis on behavioral science as applied to management and to the recognition of thus manager operate in social system. The human relation theory did underscores need for the greater and deeper understanding social and behavioral aspect of management. The Hawthorne experiment provided research evidence needs of understand better human motivations and group reactions. The classical theory beginning of the systematic study. The classical writer have viewed an organization as a machine and a human being as a different component. Their approach have focused on input-output mediator and has given less attention to facilitator and contrasting factors. So classical organization theory is based on the contribution of scientific management by Taylor and other administrative management by Fayol. The classical theory has been developed around four major factors. There are division of level, scalar and functional process, structure, span of control. They are known as the classical pillar. The classical concept is important part of organization theory and give a clue about how to design an organization. The concept have organized the fragmented thought in area of management, consolidated discipline, and further development. Many of the classical concepts hold valid even today and provide guidance for design of an organization. However, the classical theory have attracted a lot of criticism, particularly from neoclassic. The neoclassical theory have developed as a reaction to rationality and efficiency, which fail to recognize the significance of impact of human being. The neoclassical theory emphasizes the task of complementing for some of deficiencies, so postulate the classical model and modalities there suit the needs of human being. The human relation theory emphasizes the informal organization and emphasize the formal organization structure. So human relation theory view organization as the emotional and social system. Advocate social man view of worker emphasize the sociological and psychological aspect of organization, while the classical theory was the emotional views organization as an emotional and social system. Advocates economic man emphasize the physiological and mechanical aspect. So human relation theory believes that the organization behavior is a product of attributes, sentiment, and feeling of employee, while classical theory believes that organizational behavior is product of rules and regulation. Again, the human relation school assume that people are heterogeneous, while classical theory assume people are homogeneous. Okay, so this was the classical theory. Next is what is the behavioral approach. It's talking about the behavioral approach to study an organization is a continuous phenomena. It's given by the Chester Bernard. So the behavioral approach to the study of organization cover a method of examining public administration by studying the individual and collective human behavior in administrative situation. It's bring to bear upon administrative problem and interdisciplinary approach include sociology, individual and social physiology, and cultural anthropology. Okay, the behavioral approach is an improved, the more mature version of the human relation approach. It is mainly concerned with scientific study of behavior in diverse social environment. This approach aims at substituting empirical and realistic judgment of purely value-oriented judgment. According to Smithberg and the behavioral method of public administration, increased attention to individual, his relationship to the administration organization. Former method of study of particular that scientific management had tended to consider him rather things of means, without taking into account the different aspect of his personality and relationship to interest, social group, then administration organized, in which worker increased attention to the individual. Okay, and the second feature of behavioral aspect are the social system, which result where formerly attention was concentrated exclusively to formal and rational relationship of the organization. Now informal relationship of man in the organization receive equal attention. So as a consequences, the mean of communication is public service receive more attention at the hands of the behavioralistic. Another feature of approach is the replacement of theory of sovereignty by the legitimacy. The theory of political sovereignty had given the birth to the theory of hierarchical structure, line of authority, chain of command, graduated delegation. Thus, the emphasis is put upon administrative leadership and motivation. So it is contended that the study of man as a social animal, though in itself equitable, laudable, cannot be considered to be part of administrative science unless resulting knowledge. So particularly administrative man to this objection is stated that the study of behavioral science, even though it may not be involved observation peculiar administration, is likely to throw new light on administration. Further, it is maintained that the behavioral science have only been applied to and only appear to valid for small social group. Study of public administration deal with large communities, and these show that the behavioral approach is continuous process. Bernard approach to organization can be called behavioral as the late emphasis on the psychological aspect. His main work are in the field of organization, authority, motivation, and he viewed organization basically as a social system. He defined formal organization as a system, and organization can be divided into two parts, formal and informal. So other there is a continuous interaction between two. Bernard does not agree with the classical view of authority, and he gives a concept of authority which is termed as acceptable theory of authority. This authority for him is a character of communication. Bernard also propounded the theory of contribution, satisfaction, and equilibrium, which an individual receive exchange for contribution may be regarded as inducement or incentive from organization viewpoint. Okay, so now next question is information constitute the lifeblood of the information is the lifeblood of the organization. In the light of statement explain the utility of the communication. So communication is the important principle, and Millet described the communication as the bloodstream. And communication can be defined as the process of passing the information, understanding one person to another. Communication has come with the recognized as the first principle of administration. This is an much closer to the government and neighbors. He identified himself more with the life even in the international field. Researchers in group dynamic and human psychology have proved that the successful working of one organization depends upon the winning of cooperation, and democracy demands that public must increasing associated with the administration, business, and government alike. Therefore, he felt need of establishing between the communication channel in which organization management had recognized the part of communication play in promoting the participation, coordination, and teamwork. So there is ample evidence of the recognition. Almost all the civilized government today have set up information, publicity, and public relation, conference, workshop, and other training programs for the communication skill, and particularly for the United States regarding decision making process in the public and private administration. Communication play a very vital role. As we know, the decision making takes place at the various level of the organization. Top level formulate broad policies and program. These policy or decision regarding the program are communicated to the various level down in the hierarchy, so that these program can be finally implemented on ground level. Now in all these plans formulation and implementation, communication play a vital role. If communication system is properly maintained, plan policy can be explained clearly. Now again, where plans are finally executed, whether these are execution is properly done or not, so implemented according to the predetermined goals, all these things should be communicated to the top level. And in our country, when annual plans and single plans formulated, which is nothing but decision making various program and policies. Now to achieve this target, it has to be communicated to the field agency which finally implemented this policy. Similarly, this field feedback to to the head and this administration had to be respective administration and ministry about the actual position of implementation. All this feedback is possibly only if there is a good communication. So we can say that communication is very important principle of administration, and it is involved in all process of administration, staffing, planning, postcode, and lifeblood of functioning of the organization. So next question is, decision making scheme is satisfying model. It's a satisfying model of Simon in the major component of administration. So Herbert Simon is the foremost theories of decision. He defined the decision making as the optimal national choice between the alternative course of action. According to Simon, decision making pervades the entire organization. That is, decisions are made at all level of organization. Hence, he viewed an organization as a structure of decision maker. He equated administration with decision making as every aspect of administration revolved around the decision making. Simon was very critical of classical approach and its advocacy of principle of administration having universal application of challenge, universal validity, and described them to proverbs occurring mutually contradictory pair. He argued that pupil can only be established any immutable principle of administration. One must be able to describe how an administration organization look and enact how it work. Simon observed before a science can be developed principle, it must be possess concept of decision making is most important activity of administration. An administrative science, like any science, is concerned purely with factual statement. There is no space for ethical statement. According to Simon, every decision based upon the premises, the factual premises and value premises. A fact is a statement of reality, while a value is expression of preference. A factual premise can be observable. Measurable means a value premises, on the other hand, cannot be tested empirically. So only subjectivity asserted is valid. So according to Simon, the value premises are concerned with the choice and the action, while the factual premises are concerned with the choice of decision leads to the selection of final goals. So value judgment, and insofar they involve the implementation of such goals, they can be called the factual judgment. Okay. So the Simon was, according to Simon, decision making comprises three principles: intelligence activity, and decision making as intelligence activity. It involved the finding occasion for making a decision. According to Simon, the execution spanned a large fraction of technical, political, social environment, identifying new conditions of all new actions. Design activity, Simon called second phase of design activity, consists of investing, developing, analyzing the possible course of action, that is finding the alternative course of actions. And Simon believed that the executing spend an even larger fractions individual seeking invent, design, and develop the possible course of actions. And choice activity, Simon called the last phase in the decisions and involved the selecting a particular course of actions. And Simon bounded rationality model. Herbert Simon deal with the comprehensive with the rationality aspect of decision making. His model of rational decision making is known as the behavioral alternative model. Alternative model is the more realistic alternative to classical economic rationality model. Simon defined rationality means the objective intelligence, and it's impossible in administrative behavior. Maximizing decision is also not possible. He observed that the human behavior is an organization setting a characteristic of bounded rationality, leading to satisfied decision as the against maximizing the decision. Satisfying was satisfaction, and the decision implied that the decision maker choose an alternate which is satisfactory. So dynamic nature of organization, imperfect information as well as limitation practically to process the available information, time and cost constraint, environment for us, for external, for personal affection of decision making, like conceived notion, habits on the basis of this base model, bounded rationality of decision making discuss about the Herbert Simon has given a very comprehensive theory and all aspect of organization, that is aspect of environment and resources, time, on the base of finally satisfying model which say that decision making cannot opt for the very satisfactory or good enough actions alternative to achieve the optimum satisfaction. Explain the contribution of George Mayo to the development of the human relation theory. So Mayo was the human relation theory, unlike other theory, different theory which believe that human problem needs human solution. The solution thought which can be based on the human data and human tools. It is stressed on human motivation and informal group and rejects the formal group and our institutionalization. So major dimension nature of main of almost important is studying all the organization problem. Human relation theory is based on the Hawthorne experiment which carried by the Western Electrical Company under the great contribution of development of human relation theory. So mechanistic theory. Okay, relation theory is becoming gradually outdated. Like mechanical theory was the outdated, humanistic or socialist psychological theory has been put forth. The theory based on Hawthorne experiment lays stress on working relationships and emotional and personal, and based on the intrapersonal relationship customaries. It is neither written nor manualizing. These are mainly informed outlay which portray the pattern of informal deviation from behavior. Under Hawthorne experiment of Western Electrical Company in Chicago conducted three major research human relation. One popularly known the illumination experiment designed by the research team studied the effect of illumination efficiency and productivity. Eventually, researchers conducted that some extent the worker were responsible actually to the experiment itself rather than the level of illumination. This gave rise to what is called the Hawthorne effect. The theory was worker perform more efficiently, and next to the experiment was to examining the role of fatigue and monotony on the efficiency and the output of worker. For this, the scientists recruited small work group, six women each assembling telephone replay. The researchers made as many as 10 change in working conditions. An output increase each time favorable change was made. Mayo finding of the Hawthorne experiment have profoundly changed the face of organization. His most important finding identify the roots of work satisfaction of non-economic and connect them with interest taken by worker performance. Thus Mayo viewed the ultimate importance of the Hawthorne study. Hawthorne study developed the more complex and realistic model. As the consequences, human beings are recognized as complex, influential input. So key contribution to the organization efficiency productivity. Mayo contribution to management thinking was seminal. From the Hawthorne study, Mayo discovered that many problems of worker management relation resulted not from the insufficient specialization of inadequate wages, but social and psychological forces that were often quite complex. So Mayo contribution revealed that importance of most significant conclusion of human emotions, reactions, respect, business of managing other. Mayo demonstrated once and for all that management could only succeed in leading an organization employee if the worker in their informal group accepted the leadership. So, however, later researchers recognized the need of rigorous examination of psychological and social aspects, and they are regarded behavioral scientists chief among them, like McGregor, Maslow, Herzberg, Agris, Likert, firmly advocated that place concept of social man and concept of self-actualization man would be appropriate to explain human behavior and human motivation. They emphasize the value of more democratic and less authoritarian and hierarchical structural organization than suggested by classical writers. For instance, Maslow a hierarchy of human needs, which become the basis for explaining the work motivation in organization. According to him, people generally have five basic needs: psychological, safety, social, self-esteem, self-actualization. They satisfy their needs in their order of importance. Once these needs are reasonably met, they seek to satisfy higher order needs. Unlike Mayo, behaviorists believe that the pupil will be productive. Again, the Mayo Human Relations School, the behavioral approach, take a more dynamic and organic organization. They emphasize psychological needs, intrinsic rewards, self motivation. These was okay. Now, next question is Weber idea of impersonal detachment and spirit the corps are incompatible. Weber ideas of bureaucracy was an ideal type. According to him, if the worker are impersonal in their outlook, they can be rational. Because of rationality was the central concerns of ideal type of organization. So impersonality means that the bureaucratic form of organization does not entertain irrational sentiments. These are devoid of human emotions and value. Only then it work rationality. Sentiment drive towards the faulty work. his personal likes and dislikes. Weber was saying that officials are expected to carry out their duties without allowing themselves to be influenced by their personal emotions and sentiments. Official work should be conducted without a bias, and the impersonal order should orient the action of bureaucratic both in issuance of the commands to subordinate. So in this the case of impersonal detachment, this idea split the corps seem to be incompatible. Split the corps means teamwork where many persons are emotionally attached and work team to find describe ends. The impersonal detachment calls for impersonality and work is done by individual. Split the corps there is notion that no one in the world is perfect and the shortcoming can be removed if